Well, Horace, tell me about your early days in the society.
Oh, I've had an interest in magic since I was 8 years old. It'll take me back to about Ballymena, where I was born. And I discovered the USM through a book in the library in Belfast City Library there, Great Royal Avenue. And there was an address on the back of it called the Ulster Society of Magicians, right to T.E. Oldham. And I wrote to Ted. I was 16, and I wrote to Ted and I said, look, I'm very interested in magic, can I become a member? And he sent me an application form back, but said, unfortunately, I was only 16 and I couldn't join until I was 18, because that was the rules in those days. So on my 18th birthday, which was the 21st of September, first meeting in October, first Monday in October, I climbed the stairs to the old Kensington Hotel where the USM was held. And my breath was beating, and my heart was beating, my breath was coming in short pants, as the man says. I was as nervous, and I knocked the door, and a T.E. Oldham came out to meet me. And I introduced myself, and he brought me in and introduced me to a man called Sam Mercer. And Sam and Ted became very dear friends of mine until their demise, each of them. In fact, we were with Ted the night before he died. I joined the club then, and I'm eternally grateful to it. I can never start to thank the club for what it did to me in my dubious career through magic. After all these years, I'm now 45, just coming 45 years of unbroken membership in the society. But then Ted looked after me for a while. Sam Mercer lived in, I forget the name of the street now, on the Baysbridge Road on the east end of Belfast, where I lived actually off Cypress Avenue as well. So he invited me home to his house. And from then, probably for 2, 3, 4 years, every Wednesday in life, I was in his front room, pestering the life out of him. And he taught me a great deal. Sam was a lovely person. He wasn't a great card man, he wasn't a great technician, but he had great knowledge of magic. And through him, I met a man called Jim McCall. Now, Jim McCall was to be my mentor right through the whole of the rest of his life, because Jim lived over in Clayfield Road, the first house on the Clayfield Road, up a set of steps. And I was 18, 19, 20, and I had no money, but I had my bicycle, so I rode across from the East Belfast up over to there. But once every month, I think it was a Tuesday, maybe it was a Thursday, every month. And I sat with Jim, I sat at Jim's feet, and Jim was very knowledgeable, an excellent magician. Tall man, quiet. He was a clerk of works, but a great engineer. And he used to make his own coins. People don't remember that, but a bit like Eddie Gibson, he had a little tool shop at the back, and he turned out shell coins and stuff like that as well. I still have some of his coins at home. And he did a wonderful manipulation act in full tails. He did a 13 billiard ball act, you know, the 13 billiard ball, out of Geoffrey Buckingham's As Easy Than You Think. He had that off, and he won umpteen competitions doing that. Very distinguished. And how he held, they're all genuine, there was no shells. He was wonderful. Terrific guy altogether. Great card man. I remember Jim in his later years, just before he went, was trying to learn the second deal, and his fingers were nearly red raw at whatever age Jim was in his 70s, doing the second deal, and did a superb second deal at the end of the day. And he taught me about everything I knew. I wanted to go in for the Downey Cup competition, which was the thing to do in those days. We all went into it. And I locked myself away in my room night after night after night, 24 hours at a time, never left. And I was doing a manipulation act. And Jim said, let me see it. So I had to collect everything and take it over to Jim. And Jim's wife, Elsie, was a real targe. She was actually in finance. She was money lender's not the right term, but she was in that end. She was a hard lady, but knew what she wanted and ruled Jim with a rod of iron and ruled me with a rod. I was terrified of her at the time. And I would stand at the end of his big kitchen there in front of the table, and I would set my act up. And I was doing, wasn't billiard balls, I opened with soap bubbles, you know, the blowing soap bubbles and catching the soap bubbles. And I had 8 of those. I did that. I did back and forth card manipulations, candles, that sort of thing, watches. The old act then was built around watches, because I ended up finishing with a huge big thing that size. But I used to stand at the end, and Elsie would say, do it again, that's all right. Call yourself a magician, do it again. She used to rap me in the knuckles. Oh, she was one real hard lady. She was absolutely marvellous. I loved her to bits. But it was through her help and Jim's help that I went in for my first competition and won the competition, and we can say that in a few seconds, tell you a little bit more about that. My first convention I went to, and I had no money. Jim and Elsie took me down in their big Rover car, and it was just outside Dundalk, the first IBM convention. I didn't know what IBM was. And they took me down and allowed me to sleep in their bedroom on the floor along with them, and that says something for them. I thought they were most wonderful people. Jim McCall then subsequently presented the club itself with the Jim McCall Trophy. The Jim McCall Trophy is for close-up magic. And in those days, close-up wasn't as big as it is today. It used to be all stage work. But latterly now, of course, it's all close-up work. And the Jim McCall Trophy then, of course, is competed for each year. And it's his memorial to the club. I absolutely adored him. But it was thanks to him that I won the competition, the Downey Cup competition. And really, for me, that's where the ball started. That Downey Cup competition thing, I didn't know at the time that, and it was the only one I ever went in for. I was scared to go in for any more. At that, the MD, musical director as they called themselves, piano player, was a man called Derek Marsden. And I didn't know Derek. Became one of my very best friends. And whenever that was over and I had actually won it, I went home and I got a telephone call about 3 days later from the Arts Theatre in Belfast. And that was in 1962. So I'm going back a wee bit. And it was Hibby Wilmot, who was then managing director and owner virtually of the Arts Theatre, and asked me would I come in for an audition because he was casting a show going over Christmas time called the Old Time Musical. And they were looking for a speciality act. And his friend Derek Marsden had recommended me. So that's how that came about. I went and did my first ever audition. And I knew nothing. I did never in a theatre in my life. Knew nothing whatsoever. My father's a clergyman. He didn't like me going into theatres and stuff like that. So off I went, nervous as a kitten. They opened the tabs. I was behind. I had my little bits and pieces. It was still a manipulation act. No music, nothing. Completely black out at the front because you couldn't see in front of the footlights. And there was only 3 people in the front of the stalls, if you like, and that was Hibby, his wife, Dorothy, and John Burke, who was the stage manager. They said, go. That's why I did it. Finished. Thank you. And the curtains closed. And that was it. I was wetting myself. I really was sick. Packed up my stuff, down and through the stage door and away home, and nobody even spoke to me. And a week later I got a telephone call to say I was starting on 24th of December. And that was what do you call it, Christmas Eve. And I went in there and I worked there 6 weeks. And I learned, that was my first professional show. I still have the contract for it at home. There was a big row because I was getting 15 guineas a week. And the pros who were working there, because they were with Equity and I was with VAF then, the Variety Artists Federation, which then amalgamated with Equity a lot longer, had a higher pay rate for speciality acts. So the people like Doreen Hepburn, who was very well known, Maurice O'Callaghan, who was extremely well known, did a lot of television work, were getting paid less than me. And they wouldn't speak to me. And the whole of the 6 weeks, not one of them would speak to me. But fortunately, there was Mary Cunningham was playing the organ, and she was the MD, and the drummer, and the 3 of us got on very well. A girl called Brady Ward, who was a girl singer. And I've seen her since quite a few times. She's still alive. She's older than I am. And that's where we started the whole affair. Whenever I went in there and did my 6 weeks there, I got a phone call from somebody called, his name is gone. He was Edwin Heath's manager, Bert Mack. And I got a phone call from Bert Mack. I didn't know him from Adam. He said, look, I'm doing a wee show down in Carrickfergus in the cinema. Would you come down and audition for me? I will pay you 2 guineas. 2 guineas was big money in those days. And I didn't know him. But they picked me up from home in an old black taxi, which they ran about in. Did an audition there for him and went on to the road 12.5 years with Edwin Heath. Full time. And that's how it started. And it all started because of the USM and the Downey Cup competition. And it's made me a very nice living now for the past, coming 40 years. this year, 1962. Yeah, December 62, 2002 we're at. So it's 40 years coming in December. And I've never stopped working since. Used to be all theatre work. Used to be all did illusions, subtrumpets, all that nonsense. Then I went into the Doves and did the Birds for a while and toured England, Scotland, Wales, continent, Far East, wherever it was, and did all that stuff. And now that's all gone, and through all the theatre stuff, into the clubs, did all the club work, did the North of England clubs, and if you do that, you do anything. The North of Scottish, middle of Scottish, Lancashire, all around that area. Hard clubs, 2 half-hour spots. You had that to do. They've all gone now, so I've now concentrated on kids' work. So it's nearly all children's work, as you know. And close up and do a bit of table hopping. Don't do it as well as you, Trevor, but I do table hopping. And that's a compliment to you. And you want me to say it, and you've got it. But that's true. I think you're the best in the business over here at the moment. But that's for you to say a bit later on. So that's my career to date, and I'm not just finished yet.
Hi, we're going to do some magic, but before we do that, we have an observation test to make sure that you're all watching. We have a fork and a spoon. Let's put them on the table. You know what they are, but let's confuse you. Let's mix them up. Okay. Yeah, it's a spoon. You got it. Okay. It's a fork. Okay. No need. You're all wide awake. Or are you? Can you tell me now which is which? If I separate them, have a guess. Forks are no. I'm sorry. That's the spoon. But I'll make it easy. If I put the spoon into this pocket, that leaves me obviously with the, no sir, that's the spoon and that's the fork. Thank you. Okay, so you obviously got that, you were watching. Okay, that's good, you're a good observer. Let's get rid of these because now we've got a little brass cup. This is over 100 years old. It was owned by a magician before me. He's dead. I do this to keep him alive. In my pocket I have one ball. It's a bit of a handicap, but I do my best. Sir, obviously you've seen the cup. Could you please do a favour, take the ball for me? It's not your fault, sir. Look, it's under the cup. It's not your fault. It's just I'm too fast. Please take the ball, sir. Pop it in the cup for me. Fantastic the ball is.
In the cup.
At the last table the girl said red, but she had blonde hair, you know, okay. Let's get the ball and pop it into my pocket, sir. If the ball is in my pocket, obviously it's in my pocket. If I pop it under the cup, sir, it is under the cup. Brilliant. All you do is say catchphrase. You say what you see. Promise me you'll keep your eye on the ball. First time it's easy. If I take that ball and put the ball, sir, into my pocket, obviously the ball is in my pocket. No, sir, it's under the... Oh, I know what it is. I'm going too fast. Slow motion, sir. The ball goes into my pocket. Therefore, sir, the ball is in my pocket. No, sir, I'll tell you what, I'll make it bigger for you. Now, you can't miss it this time. It looks like a tomato, but it's not a tomato. We've done it slowly. Let's do it quickly. This time, the ball, sir, goes into my... No, sir, it's under the cup and turned into a tomato, sir. It is a real tomato. Please pick it up, sir. Isn't that a real tomato, sir? Isn't that a real tomato, sir? Sir, why don't you do magic? Pick up the cup for me, sir. Go for it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well done.